My whole life, I have been taught to be loyal to the crown. But, as the wagon trundles down the dusty dirt road, that belief is slowly getting nudged out of my mind by other ideas. The idea of freedom, the idea of a new country, a country independent from any control across the ocean. The rational part of my mind pushes back, but cannot deny the infallible truth in the words I've heard today. The wagon grinds to a standstill. I hop out and walk up the slight hill to the humble farmhouse that rests on top. I grab the wooden bucket from the doorstep and quickly make my way around the house. I arrive at the well and, with practiced hands, affix the bucket to the rope and slowly lower it down the circular cobbled hole. While my body runs through the motions of this task, my thoughts drift back to the topic weighing upon my consciousness. My father and I had been in Philadelphia to restock on a few missing supplies, and I had wandered off. As I meandered through the crowded, noisy streets, my ears caught the strains of a voice raised in speech. I could not discern the words, so I decided to make my way closer. Suddenly I found myself in a small square. The man stood upon the steps of a building. He must have been speaking for a while, because his face was red and beaded with sweat, and his wig was skewed slightly to the side. He talked of violations of the rights of mankind and how we have no alternative other than independence. Must be a patriot, I muttered to myself in disgust. But oddly, despite what I'd been taught all my life, I joined the crowd and began to listen. There's something in the way he spoke. I've been told by my father that patriots were just overzealous fools who were trying to whip up anti-British feelings just for the excitement of rebellion. But, as I listened to the man's words, I realized he actually spoke with conviction. So despite my upbringing, I began to heed what he was saying. The bucket finally arises from the depths of the hole. I carry it, now heavy, to the small fenced enclosure behind our house. An onslaught of squeals meets me as I slosh the water into the low wooden troughs. I take the now empty bucket back to the front of the house. Swarms of bugs hang in the air, aglow from the beams of sunlight slanting through the trees. I step through the door and set the bucket next to the wall. The small one-level farmhouse has a main room and a bedroom for my parents in the back. Crammed into the dimly lit main room are a fireplace, table and chairs, and cots for my two sisters and me. The buttery scent of baked squash fills the air. I walk over to the table and sit down along with the rest of my family. We say grace and dig into our meal. After some time, my father speaks. Elijah, were you listening to that man today? Caught off guard, I cannot think of a suitable denial and end up incoherently stuttering a few words of protest. He gives me an icy look and silence again pervades. After finishing our supper, my father makes his way to the entrance of the bedroom and motions for me to follow. Since we have only 2 rooms, the bedroom also serves as an area for private discussions among the various members of the family. My father moves 2 chairs so that they are facing each other and tells me to sit. Okay, let's set things straight. What did you hear from that man today? He says in a deep, serious voice. Nothing, Father. I was just passing by when you saw me. Elijah, I want the truth. So I tell him. I tell him how the man spoke of Parliament taxing Americans without their consent. How he talked about the wrongs committed by Britain. How he talked about how we must fight for our independence. And how I realized that I fully support what he was saying. My father wears a grim expression. It takes him a moment to respond after I finish. Well, son, that's very interesting. But what I have to say to you is this. You'd better consider what you just said, because no son of mine will be thinking patriot thoughts in this household. His voice and body language are as calm as a boulder, but I can tell that boulder is teetering on the edge of a cliff. I know that remaining loyal to the crown would be easier. I would be at peace with my father and life would go on. But I can't let go of the chord that was striking me today. My mind is unresponsive, not able to come to a decision. I get up and flee the bedroom. I rush past my startled sisters and out the door. I need some time alone. An old stump provides a chair for me. I am shocked to find that, despite the fact that I am 14, I'm crying. I decide that there is no way that I will ever be able to go back to being a loyalist. I'm just beginning to contemplate my future as an outcast of my own family when I hear footsteps approaching. I whirl, and through my tears, see the blurry image of my father. Father, I stutter. Hush, Elijah. I have reconsidered, he says. If war is imminent, which it very well might be, then we cannot afford to have a divided family. Despite our differences in opinion, I believe we must stick together and fight no more.